Hey guys, Bix Weir, roadtoruta.com. Today I want to go over the Road to Ruta website and some of the features it has. As far as old articles, there's thousands, literally, of old articles on all kinds of things from silver to the cryptos to, yes, conspiracy theories. And if you have been watching the Vegas shooting information come out, you will have learned by now that there was at least one other shooter from a different spot, the fourth floor. Clearly, it can be seen the fire coming out of the rapid fire shooting, which those guns, of course, they think it might have been a saw gun, which is really interesting. But yeah, this Paddock guy could not have operated that machinery, so we are being lied to about something. I do think people were killed, although I haven't seen any interviews yet of people who were shot and survived. And those have yet to come out. So maybe it isn't a case where there were shooters. I know a lot of people got trampled because people were lying down and then people would just run and step on people and things like that. But I haven't seen any interviews with someone who was shot. If you guys have seen that, send it over to me. I've seen people on stretchers, kind of, you know. The strange thing about all these things are there's crisis actors involved, and I've seen a couple of crisis actor interviews, and those are very obvious that these people, they kind of go into too much detail and they keep looking down at their notes. I'll show some more of that later on a YouTube post I saw from ABC and CBS seem to be the ones leading this circus. So yeah, but yeah, I do think that people were shot. I just haven't seen any interviews of those people, which is really odd. You should see hundreds of people coming forward saying, "Oh my God, I got shot in the arm. Look at this hole in my arm," or things like that. And I haven't seen any of that at all, which is strange because I heard it was 600 people were injured. But I'm still withholding judgment. 2 weeks, right? All right, let's go to what I wanted to show you guys at the end of the Road to Ruta each section. So the top section is the free stuff, Road to Ruta letters. If you go to the bottom of it, Road to Ruta letter archives, just click on that and it'll give you the archives for the Road to Ruta. Everything from JP Morgan and silver, a lot of silver stuff, Veritasium, golden secrets. And then you just hit more headlines and you get just 371 articles just in that one section. So yeah, check that out. It's all free. The top section's free. And then the Road to Ruta subscribers, right there you have the subscription page. Again, archives at the bottom. And the bottom three sections are the old stuff for anybody on the private road who's interested in going through the archives. And there's a ton of them. But another thing I wanted to show you on the left side here is this tab right here, Resources. This has all the conspiracy stuff that I've been researching over the years. If you look here, geoengineering, chemtrails, HARP, world orders. Now, this isn't the definitive documentation and paper on all this stuff. It's just something I found very interesting and seemed to make sense to me. So you can just click on that and it'll take you to a PDF there. Here's a copy of the 1912 Grand Canyon Gold article that Andy Hoffman has such a problem with. Doesn't believe me. There it is. Look at that. And it goes down, talks all about the amount of gold. Mind you, I have done a ton of research after discovering this. A lot of things, things come up today that the largest commercial aircraft disaster in 1956, two commercial airplanes crashed into each other and landed right on top of this exact site in the Grand Canyon, which gave them the cover to take all these heavy lift helicopters. They said they were moving debris, but it was more clear that the crash didn't happen, and they had to move stuff out of the Grand Canyon. It could have been all the obelisks or Egyptian Egyptian artifacts. They're not Egyptian, obviously, but that's what they're called. But it also could have been massive amounts of gold in the 1950s. So we don't know, but I'm still researching all of it, and there's tons of information. There's court cases on this stuff. So yes, it is true that we have a huge mountain of gold inside the Grand Canyon yet to be excavated. More stuff on this page. Bitcoin's founding paper. Really interesting. Everybody I think should read this paper. The Satoshi Nakamoto paper. It's really interesting, and you can just tell how bright this person or this group of people is when it comes to computer programming, when it comes to the monetary system, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, cryptography. Just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Probably the smartest paper of its generation, definitely. A couple of videos on the history of Bitcoin. It goes over 927 who own about half the Bitcoin. This was in 2013. Obviously, that has changed by now. Here's another geoengineering presentation. This is a really good presentation. The Deep Capture by Patrick Byrne. Patrick Byrne is the CEO of Overstock.com, who is fighting the criminal banksters. This is where I got most of my information on the rehypothecation of stock shares. For every share out there, there's 5 to 10 other people who own that exact same share. And that's how they do the high-frequency trading and all that. Everything's pooled together. So if you bought a share of something, Apple stock, or a mining share from your broker, Schwab or Fidelity or whoever your broker is, they actually did not go out and buy it for you. They did not put it in your name. And there are 5 to 10 people who own that exact same share that they sold you. It all works fine as long as the music's playing. As soon as the music stops, there's a huge problem. And you will not get your share back. Yes, there will be lawsuits, but in that type of chaos, it's not really going to matter. So I am not a fan of anything third-party held, because most likely people have the same claims on the exact same asset. This goes into more of the failure to deliver information. Really interesting stuff, and they've had congressional hearings about this stuff, but they never fix it. What they do is they grandfather a lot of it. Say, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I think there's over 300 million shares every day that aren't fully vetted, fully secured. Title isn't transferred, money isn't transferred, and it's not put in the other person's name. It's called settled. More DTCC information. I did a lot of work on DTCC. If you want to know more about how they can do this with the shares and where all the most important information is held legally and legally entitled, it's within the DTCC at a company called Seed and Company. And who owns Seed and Company? It's probably the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers, or the parents, as some people have called them, above the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. And here's the Exchange Stabilization Fund story. Amazing stuff. You need to know that. And here's the Wishes and Rainbows links. This is the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, the comic books. You can find them right here. Here's the 1981 version. It is right there. You can tell. It looks like a 1981 comic book, doesn't it? And there's Stephen DeVoe, the guy who was in charge of the computer programs to control the system in the 70s and 80s. And look at the old school comic. I have a few of these. They're really cool. I mean, for my work, it's vital. And there's Grandma talking to, that's Arthur Burns talking to Alan Greenspan, talking about gold and how important gold is. And Greenspan wanted to make his mentor, Arthur Burns, happy by going back on the gold standard, so he wrote computer programs to help rig the market. And here's Grandma tucking Roota into bed, saying that all our people are afraid to go there. Besides, no one knows how to reach covenant. Yeah, who is the Federal Reserve afraid of, really? They're afraid of the big people who might accidentally step on any public person. Really, it's a horrifying comic. And there's Roota looking for the gold. There she finds it in the Grand Canyon. Da 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 da. And they use the colored flower metaphor. I just want to show you this other thing in here. That is what Roota writes in the sand. Because I showed you that she, in the 2007 version, she wrote 11 plus 9, which is obviously 9/11. This is the Fed Boston saying this. I think it's page 15. It's coming up. And this is right here is where Roota's writing in the sand. This formula is the formula for On the Road to the Golden Age, a 1960s formula on how to return to a gold standard from a non-back and a fiat system. And the ultimate conclusion was you run the system as hard as possible, sucking up all the benefits. You print the money to infinity. That was the final conclusion right there, infinity. And then the system implodes and you can start fresh with a gold standard or whatever is available at the time was the best means of exchange, the best use as money. And that's exactly what was going on back then in 1981. And then in 2007, something changed. And the thing that changed, I will show you on the 2007 version, page 15. And they're right there. Roota's writing in the sand, 11 plus 9, or 9/11. There's the Islamic crescent moon. Very spooky stuff. And this is from the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, directly from, and you can still find their archives and all that. And of course, when you have such an esoteric comic book, you need a teacher's guide. So there's the teacher's guide to the road to Roota, and it walks you through exactly what the comic book is talking about, the scarcity and the need for a scarce type of money and gold as money. It even talks about the first Ponzi scheme, which is, the tulip mania. Not Ponzi scheme, that's the first bubble, supposedly in recorded history. And they talk about that. But if you read the questions, it's exactly what our officials are dealing with today. What makes a good money? Who should, how should we redistribute money when the banks crash? Things like that. And right here on the right is the talk about the tulip mania in 1637. Everybody loves to pull that one up to describe bubbles. And it wasn't really a monetary bubble, so you can call it what you will. And then Roota's always looking. And an interesting thing is I wrote away for some of these comics, and they sent me some, and then they stopped giving them out. So they no longer give them out. Everything's electronic. It's still on their website, though, and you can download it. Not the 1981 version, not the 1981 version, but the 2007 version of it. Anyway, moving on. Some more cool stuff. The Banking Basics. This pamphlet, this is the original pamphlet that came out in 1987, right when the Silver Eagle Act was passed. And it's pretty straightforward. It does talk about how banks crash, talks about a blowing up housing market, which we've been through. It also talks about a blowing up oil market, which we might go through. But there's no real interesting pictures on this 1987 version. And when they re-released it in Banking Basics right here, all of a sudden, look what's on the cover. A kid putting a gold coin into a piggy bank. Interesting. But that's not all. Let's zoom in. A kid putting a gold coin into a piggy bank. But that's not all. Let's look at, how about this? A woman waiting in line with gold coins in her hand. And this. Look at that. How often do you see going to a bank, people going to the bank, a kid going to a bank with, I think it's 19 I counted, I don't remember the count, gold coins in exchange for paper money. That's exactly what the plan was right there, and you can see the gold price on the background. And this is, again, this was released the exact same day, January 1st, 2007, as the Road to Roota comics. And then the most chilling thing is, not chilling, but when they talk about failing banks. Why do banks fail? Gusher National Bank and Oil Bank. Look at the picture that's right between the two banks that fail. Does that look like the GATA picture? The GATA picture is all cloaked in darkness and charging the Federal Reserve, and this one's all cloaked in sunlight with a crack in the door. So obvious. So obvious. It's amazing. And there's the Bedrock Bank. That's the housing bank that crashed. That's how they crashed it the last time. And then there's a couple more pictures, and they end with, I think they end with a girl with the gold in her hand, and voila, the big one, the girl cashing in gold coins at the Federal Reserve, or no, at her local bank, it looks like. All right, so that's most of it. Although this, if you want to know what happened on 9/11, click on these 3 reports, collateral damage reports. Very important, extremely important. It details who did it, why they did it, and how they did it. And this was this report was made by the Office of Naval Intelligence and released about 3 years after 9/11. Just FYI. Although they didn't put their name on it, but I deduced from the person who wrote it and how they talked about the Office of Naval Intelligence, the exact spot where in the Pentagon that plane supposedly flew in. The ONI was working on the investigation into gold market rigging, 9/11, or not, gold market rigging, and a lot of the banking crimes. And that's why they took out that part of the Pentagon. And then you got a secret gold treaty, a lot of secret treaties going on behind the scenes. Fort Knox fake gold, the gold trail, all this is conspiracy stuff. The U.S. military silver analysis is really cool because there was a fight between the good guys and the bad guys about whether or not to sell the last remaining silver that the U.S. held on reserve. And these are the 3 official documents outlining the fight. It's really cool. Deep capture, this is the naked shorting and failure to deliver of stocks. Harry Oppenheimer conspiracy. Harry Oppenheimer was the guy who invented the statistics for gold back in the 1960s, and he's also the head of De Beers Diamonds. So you can imagine where, how real those numbers are. They are fake. The gold numbers they say today are fake. The 180, 190,000 tons is a lie. It's more like 2 million tons and counting, and more in the ground. And then the risk of holding anything in a safe deposit box. Anyway, so that's the Road to Roota. And I would suggest to everybody, go check it out. If you haven't spent some time on the Road to Roota, go there. Our top section is all free. And if you hit search, you can search for anything. You can search for silver, and you will get 1,058 articles on silver. Really interesting stuff. I keep looking at this stuff. I no longer have a relationship with these guys, so I don't even think the link would work. But really interesting stuff. Go check it out and send me an email. Tell me what you think. This is Bix Weir. I'll talk to you later.